Digvijay Yatra document or module, I read this. It is worth mentioning here that during the Kurukshetra war, this Bhagadatta fought for Kaurava side and even knocked out powerful Bhimasena once when everybody thought that Bhima got killed. But Bhagadatta is usually not mentioned in the list of surviving soldiers or kings on the Kaurava side. Is there an explanation? That was a question asked by one of our students. So let me request Rupesh to give an explanation on this question. Over to you, Rupesh.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashwari, for such a wonderful welcome note. So the question is essentially about Bhagadatta. Bhagadatta, maybe we read in that module of Digvijay Yatra that Bhagadatta pushed down Bhima in the Kurukshetra war, and he is not considered as someone who survived the war. It is truly a very nice observation from the questionnaire. After the war, there are only 12 people who survived. And of the Kauravas, it is Ashwathama, Kripacharya, then Vrishaketu, the son of Karna, and then Kritavarma. These are the only 4 people who survived from the Kaurava side after the war. So Bhagadatta gets killed in the war, and that's the answer for the question in one line. But maybe I would like to elaborate who is Bhagadatta and what happens to him throughout the war, etc. To some extent, which might be very interesting also. So Bhagadatta is considered as the son of Narakasura. So if you all might remember, Narakasura was killed by Lord Krishna. So obviously there is a kind of very grudge rivalry between Bhagadatta and Krishna, and that could be perhaps the reason why he has chosen to fight for the Kauravas. So he doesn't like Krishna at all because his father was killed by Krishna. And Bhagadatta rules the kingdom Pragjyotisha. Pragjyotisha is presently considered to be in Assam. So he would have traveled from Assam till the Kurukshetra for taking part in the war. So now when we consider the Digvijay Yatra, where Arjuna's route, when he goes for the Digvijay Yatra, he encounters Bhagadatta. And according to Mahabharata, the war between Arjuna and the duel between Arjuna and Bhagadatta goes on for 8 days. After 8 days, Bhagadatta realizes that it's very difficult. Means he is a very powerful person. He's a Maharatha, but still he can't defeat Arjuna. So he forfeits and he asks Arjuna, "What should I be doing? I mean, what should I be offering you?" And Arjuna says, like, my elder brother Yudhishthira is looking for the sovereignty, like a sovereign ruler or emperor. So I would want to tribute from each kingdom where I visit. So Bhagadatta offers the tribute and he becomes he surrenders to the emperorship of Yudhishthira. So that's what happens in the Digvijay Yatra. And later his episode comes. And before, one thing which I forgot to mention is, like, in the initial Adya Parva of Mahabharata, there is a very deep discussion on which all Devas and Asuras has manifested on the earth as different kings. So when we read that portion, we might think like this is totally a drama, because Bhagavan Vishnu has come as Naranarayana, has come as Arjuna and Krishna and Arjuna, and each kings have some, like the Kali has formed as one king, and Dwapara has come. So each of them are manifestations of either some devas or asuras. So this Hiranyakashipu has formed Shishupala, etc. So while that narration happens, Bhagadatta is said to be the incarnation or the birth of an asura named Bashkala. So this discussion happens in the initial Adi Parva. So now continuing. So after the Digvijay Yatra, then Yudhishthira conducts a big Rajasuya Yajna, where Duryodhana gets mesmerized by the beauty of the Indraprastha. You all might be aware of that episode. So many kings across India comes to Yudhishthira to pay their tribute. They offer very grand, majestic things to Yudhishthira. And that time also Bhagadatta's mention is there, since he has agreed to the suzerainty of Yudhishthira. So he reaches there, and it is mentioned he gives many swift horses as a prize to Yudhishthira. Then it goes, and then Bhagadatta's episode comes only in the in the war time. So he is considered to be undeniably the most oldest person who is taking part in the Kurukshetra war. He is very old, and even in that old age, he is considered to be extremely powerful. So his battle initially begins with Virada king on the first day, then it continues, and there is a very interesting encounter with Bhimasena where his elephant is also very famous. His elephant's name is Supratiga. So it's a huge elephant, and when it wears all the ornaments and when it wears the armors and all, you can imagine how huge it could be, and rushing that elephant into an enemy camp will feel very terrific. So with the help of that elephant, he pushes down to the Bhima's army, and he even pushed down Bhimasena in one encounter between them. And everybody who were surrounded thinks that Bhimasena got killed. Even Yudhishthira gets surprised that Bhimasena got killed because Bhimasena is considered to be one of the most powerful person on earth living that time. So this is an example just to show you how powerful this Bhagavata is. And what happened is like when Gadol Gaja comes to know that Bhimasena has been attacked brutally by this person, Bhagadatta, Gadol Gaja interferes. And Gadol Gaja, as you know, is the son of Bhimasena and Hidimbi, and he has got Maya powers, the illusionary powers. He is not a complete human being. So, with the help of illusionary powers, he creates many different elephants and starts attacking on Bhagadatta. So, the interesting episode continues, and there would be a very tight combat between Gadolkaja and Bhagadatta. And that time Bhishma interferes. Bhishma says like Bhagadatta is very powerful. We shouldn't let him die in this battle. We should somehow protect him. And Bhishma comes with a huge army and protects Bhagadatta from the battlefield. So that happens on some day, and it continues. The encounters continues, and finally on the 12th day, Bhagadatta kills Dasharna, and finally there happens the final battle between Bhagadatta and Arjuna. That's also very interesting. So Bhagadatta starts shooting many arrows, and the arrows also described elaborately in Mahabharata. How beautiful the arrows are. They're with golden heads, some with irons, etc. And some of the arrows surprisingly injures Bhagavan Krishna also. Krishna and Arjuna both get injured. So that also, in somehow, Vyasa is trying to give us the impression of how brave and how powerful this man is. And finally, Bhagadatta takes a weapon which is known as Vaishnavastra. So Vaishnavastra is indeed a very powerful weapon. And when he uses that weapon against, just before using Vaishnavastra, another weapon from Bhagadatta, I think it's a spear or javelin, something that used by Bhagadatta displaces the crown of Arjuna. So Arjuna would have probably felt a little bit insulted because he considered himself to be the most finest archer. So he keeps his crown back in position and continue the war. And then Bhagadatta uses the Vaishnavastra. So Vaishnavastra is deadly. And what happens is Krishna directly interferes. Krishna stands in front of Arjuna and takes that Vaishnavastra on Krishna's chest. You most probably many would have missed this episode. So this Vaishnavastra, what happens is like when it reaches Krishna, it becomes a garland, Vaijayanti Mala. It becomes a garland of flowers and just adores Krishna. It won't have any effect on Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is Vaishnava or Vishnu himself incarnated. And surprisingly, Arjuna gets a little bit disturbed, little bit infuriated by this act of Krishna. So Arjuna interferes and he argues with Krishna. It's quite surprising that even after Bhagavad Gita, such an argument happens. Arjuna says like, why did you interfere in my battle? Means you have already taken a pledge that you wouldn't fight in the battle. Now you have interfered. You broke your vow. Why should you do that? Because I am already doing a war with this Bhagadatta. And if I was completely down, if I was injured, and if I was not standing, if I was unconscious, certainly you could have interfered. But this is not right, breaking your pledge just like that. And Krishna replies back to that if this Vaishnava Astra is used against anyone, be it be Rudra or be it be Indra, they are going to get killed because there is a power of Vaishnava Astra. So Krishna said, to me it won't affect because, and he narrates the incident where this Vaishnavastra was given as a boon to Bhagadatta's father Narakasura previously by Vishnu. So Vishnu himself is Krishna, so it won't affect me. Like that, Krishna pacifies and tries to make Arjuna understand and tell him, this is the right moment to shoot Bhagadatta. Shoot now, or you will be in danger. And Arjuna shoots Bhagadatta, and Bhagadatta gets killed. So that is the episode of Bhagadatta completely. And Bhagadatta gets killed, and after Bhagadatta is killed, even his some Arjuna gets down from the chariot, circumambulates him, and do some, I think, kind of funeral rites and all. Because Bhagadatta is a friend of Indra, and Arjuna is considered to be the Indra's son. So there is a complete episode of Bhagavatta in a nutshell. So indeed, the questioner was right. Bhagavatta does not survive the Kurukshetra war. He gets killed, but that part was not narrated in the Digvijay Yatra. It was just a pinpoint to show that Bhagavatta is very brave. He fought in the Kurukshetra war. That was only intended. But in the Digvijay Yatra, the nucleus of discussion was what was the encounter between Arjuna and Bhagadatta while his ashram, this Rajasuya, before the Rajasuya, Arjuna while he was trying to conquer Pragjyotisha or the present day Guwahati. Okay, thank you.
Namaskar. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I don't know if it's a question or an observation. So I was listening to the segment on unbroken legacy and where the presenter talks about all the different kinds of media, which was which a legacy of different kinds of art forms and architecture that came out of the Mahabharata, that is inspired by the Mahabharata. And I was just wondering, like, how does this legacy, how can this legacy be continued in this day and age? Especially like if you can think of ways of using new media like virtual reality or games or I'm asking because I'm in those areas and I've been thinking about it for a long time. But I mean, when we think of art forms inspired by the Mahabharata, what are the ethics? What are the kind of the limits that we need to take into account? I mean, how do we stay faithful to the source material while we are presenting the form? I mean, the core concepts in a new form. Any thoughts or observations? That's I guess that's my question.
I think that part where you asked how can we like continue this legacy in the modern day context is a very pertinent question. Because like the practices, the traditions are survived in different parts. Like if you take in Tamil Nadu, there are very interesting traditions linking. There are some traditions where Draupadi is linked with the Ramayana also, and some researchers have done extensive studies, and they are trying to popularize it through making it popular through visual medias and all. So I'm not trying to give you an answer, but just trying to uh, share something which I already knew. So you know this Digit Nadumuri, Digit Nadumuri, have you heard of him?
No.
Yeah, Digit Nadumuri has done a very detailed study on Mahabharata as well as on many of the Puranas and Itihasas, and he has documented that on one of his sites. Right now, I'm not remembering the web site, which I can send it to you through the group. So, what he has done is like he is also a digital kind of person, I guess. We are not very technical, but what I understand is like he makes 3D holograms and of stories, etc. And it's very popular also. So that's one thing which I have seen on one side. So I think like new modes we have to like the technical people would have to come with new modes to make popularize the stories from Mahabharata, which are very relevant at all times. In details, I think Aishwarya can give next session.